Just got done editing this interview. You guys are going to love it. Before I do that, though, I want you to know that I'm going to be in the comments for the next 30 minutes or so answering your questions. If there's additional questions you want me to ask the CEO next time I interview them, leave them below. Or if you're just loving the data points I get CEOs to share, click the thumbs up button below. That's your way of telling me you're loving this stuff, and I'll get you more of it. Additionally, again, I'll be in the comments answering any questions you have. All right, for 30 minutes. Enjoy the interview. Hello, everyone. My guest today is Schreiber. He is the founder and CEO of Freightos, the digital backbone for the trillion-dollar international freight industry. Previously, he was CEO at Latka, which was acquired by GE, and founder and CEO of Unicorn, which was acquired by IBM, along with many other successful exits. He has a PhD in computer science and is author of Phys, which tells the history of physics as a novel. Zvi, you ready to take us to the top?
Yep.
The history of physics as a novel. That sounds like hell.
Well,
for me, right? For me, for you, it sounds like this might be great. So, first off, why write the book?
Some people are interested in the universe, so they may like it, and it sounds like you won't.
What does it mean, though, through a novel lens? I mean, could a non-technical reader like me that does not have a PhD in computer science read it and enjoy it?
Yes, if you're interested in science, then you don't need any background. It's a story about a girl who time travels and has chats with Galileo and Newton and Einstein. So you learn about how over the centuries we started to understand the universe in a pretty informal way. But you've got to be interested in the matter, but it's totally non-technical.
Interesting. Okay, good. Well, no, I'm very interested in the matter, but I've tried to read some of these very technical books, and I go, oh my gosh, this is very difficult to read.
No, not very technical. Although once you get onto relativity and quantum mechanics, the concepts are a little bit tricky. But there's no formulae, nothing at all technical.
All right. For those folks that missed our first interview back in May of 2017 together, what does Freightos do, and what's the revenue model? How do you make money?
Yeah, I mean, Freightos does a couple of things which are all related to making international shipping just way easier. The model, in a way, is passenger travel. We want to make it just as easy to ship a container from China to the US as it is to book a flight from China to the US. So we're all about making freight, air and ocean, international freight really easy using modern digital techniques. In order to do that, we have to do a few things. We have to help to get data about rates and capacity from the carriers to the freight forwarders, and from the freight forwarders to the importers and exporters. In the end, it all funnels through to Freightos.com, which is a public website, a little bit like Booking.com or Expedia, but for international shipping. So in the end, we give you the modern digital experience. There's quite a lot of infrastructure behind that to actually get the data and the prices and the routes.
So what is the equivalent of like Delta and American Air in your world?
Well, Delta and American Air both they both do a lot of cargo. So they they have cargo departments. Below you're familiar with the upper deck where the passengers sit. But on the lower deck is not only your luggage but also cargo. Both of those are companies we have a relationship with, of course. But the other equivalents, of course, are in ocean, Maersk Line and CMA CGM and Costco. So you may or may not know those companies, but for ocean there are big carriers who you would not be familiar with. And then what typically happens is you typically don't work directly with Delta or American or Maersk Line. Typically, you work with a freight forwarder who's a bit like a travel agent, but they're taking care of the whole door to door, so that they move your stuff, all the way. Companies like
do they
FedEx
take a cut? Is there a middleman? Is there a middleman tax there?
They are, yes, they're a middleman. They certainly take a cut for arranging the whole thing door to door, for making sure that the truck connects with a ship or with a plane. They also typically get it through the U.S. Customs, which has become more complicated with all the tariffs that keep changing at the moment.
So are you putting them out of business? Are you disintermediating them, or you need them?
No, we're giving them a digital platform, so we're not disintermediating them. But we're making sure sometimes there's 2 or 3 freight forwarders involved. We make sure that there's no more than you need. And in certain cases, you could work with the carrier directly. But in most cases, we're enabling the freight forwarders. Some the companies, FedEx and UPS also have freight forwarding divisions, and then other big companies you may not have heard of, like C.H. Robinson and Hellman and Panalpina. These are very big freight forwarders.
Yep. When you and your executive team sit down at the end of the year, what's like the big value usage-based metric you track? Is it kind of tonnage shipped, number of freight forwarders that put at least $1 through your platform? Like, what is the metric?
Yeah, so it's sort of both. It's actual dollars through our platform, how much was spent on our platform, but that also sort of depends on prices which we can't control. So as you correctly guessed, we look at tonnage for air freight and number of containers for ocean freight.
Tonnage for air freight and number of containers for ocean. And is the reason that you measure it based off the tonnage for air, but number of containers for ocean is because the number of containers are standardized? It's always the same tonnage per container?
Well, just because that's the way the ocean industry works. They're these standardized containers, which you see, going up and down the highways, 20 foot or 40 foot. So it's very easy to count. Air freight doesn't go in a standard container. It goes in loose in most cases. So we measure it in kilos or tons.
I see. Interesting. Okay, so the company was founded in 2012. Do you know the information, the life of the company? What were those metrics? Tonnage of air freight, number of containers per ocean. How much have gone through your platform?
Well, funnily enough, we only started our platform in 2016. And the reason for that is that but the reason is, actually, we mentioned sort of Expedia. So if you think about the history, when Expedia launched, I think around 97, the data for air travel was all collected by companies like Sabre and Amadeus, who'd been around for decades, actually. So they had all the backbone of the data, and they could start marketing. In our industry, there was no such thing. So we had to spend the first 4 years building the equivalent of Sabre and Amadeus, getting all the data from the freight forwarders, the data, the rules, in order to have automated pricing. Because if you call up a freight forwarder, you do not get a price instantly. You get it after 2 or 3 days. So we had to create that infrastructure first. In a way, we had to be like a Sabre or an Amadeus who collects all the data.
Why did people give it to you early on before you had scale? What leverage did you have to convince them to give you the data?
So we actually provide them, SaaS, software as a service, to help them automate their own pricing. So these big companies like Hellman and Palapina, C.H. Robinson, they're using our technology in-house. So you call them up to get a price quote. It actually comes back powered by Freightos. So they're using our technology in-house to make their price quoting much more efficient. And then secondarily, that then enables them to sell online, both on their own websites if they have, but especially on Freightos.com.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. So 2012 to 2016. So you were doing revenue in that. That wasn't all pre-revenue. You were doing revenue on the SaaS model.
We were doing revenue, and that SaaS model is continuing to grow. And then since 2016, we have the public platform, which is like a marketplace where you can compare. We don't publish the actual volumes on that, but it's growing very rapidly. It's growing, at least 100% a year, if not more.
On all of the things, total dollars to the platform, air freight tonnage, and number of ocean containers?
Yes, typically. I mean, this year the prices have been a bit soft. So for example, in air, the tonnage has grown more than the dollars. But yes, they're all growing rapidly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just because I'm totally uneducated in this space and I don't know what's good or bad. I don't know if 100 tons or 100 billion tons is big or small. I mean, can you give me a general range? Be as vague as you want.
Well, I can tell you that the world market, I was just looking at that today, the world market is 30 million tons a year.
In air or ocean?
In air.
Okay.
In air. And in ocean, I forget how much it is, but it's tens of millions of containers.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm not going to say how much we do, but I will say that we're the biggest online. So we do more. We're still a tiny proportion of the world market. But we do more on the web than anyone else by some measure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, your penetration of what you think the total market value is obviously, the smaller it is, you could argue the larger area and room you have for growth. I mean, so would you quantify yourself and say you right now have less than 5% of the market, you still have 95% that you can go tackle?
Oh yeah, I can tell you that we're less than 1% of the market.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
But that's not because someone else is bigger. That's because 99% is still done offline. There's another area behind the scenes. I mentioned that we're also doing the rate management, and so in air we're particularly strong. We were just I just got an update today actually. So air freight forwarders, 30% of the world market is using our platform. So we have an amazing market share there. Very few companies have 30% of the world market.
30% of the freight forwarders that do air?
Of the air freight forwarders, yeah, exactly. The freight forwarders who do air are using web cargo. The web cargo is the name of our platform for freight forwarders.
How many total do the whole market? Like how many are there total?
Well,
there's forwarders.
So there are about 10,000 air freight forwarders. There's about 100,000 freight forwarders in total. And we don't have we don't have 3,000. We have about 1,500, but we have most of the big ones. So although it may sound like we have 15% of the market, by volume we have 30%.
Okay, volume 30. Interesting. That's really good. Okay, so 1,500 meaningful ones that you have, and you said they make up the 30% of the market. You mentioned the air freight market was 30 tons per year, so you're basically, or 30 million tons. So you're basically saying those 1,500 air freight forwarders that use you represent about 10 million in tons per year in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I mean that's pretty significant market share. Now, one thing I want to understand about kind of what you're building, because this is a business model, right? I'm going to turn away from your industry and more into SaaS in general. But marketplace plus SaaS, there's a lot of companies really killing it doing this. You started, it sounds like, with SaaS and use it as leverage to launch a marketplace model. Before I ask more questions here, I'd like to understand the significance of each. So, to the extent you can, in the last 12 months, what % of your total revenue would you attribute to the SaaS model versus the marketplace cut you take?
Right. And by the way, those are closely related. The reason you're quite right, this combination of a SaaS-enabled marketplace is a model which people are pursuing. And they're doing that because it helps to solve the whole chicken and egg problem of the marketplace. So in our case, and you referenced this before correctly, Nathan, by selling SaaS to the sellers on the marketplace, we were able to engage with the sellers even before we had liquidity in the marketplace.
Yeah, the buyers, the buy side.
The sell side, actually.
The sell side,
because it was the freight forwarders are typically selling. So in our case, a lot of companies use this strategy to engage the buy side, but we actually used it SaaS to engage the sell side. And have the freight forwarders ready to sell on our marketplace when we launched it. In terms of revenue, so SaaS is still what we do in marketplace is we have our gross bookings or our GMV. We don't book that as revenue. We book only the net. So if you look at the gross, then the marketplace is a lot bigger.
No, just net. Just net.
Net SaaS is still bigger than marketplace in terms of our net revenue.
Okay, I mean, are we talking like SaaS is 80% and net revenue on marketplace is 20%?
Yeah, a little more than 20% now.
Okay, fair enough.
But not wrong, yeah.
Okay, 25% net. That's interesting. And which one did you say is growing faster?
The marketplace is growing faster.
Interesting.
Selling SaaS to freight forwarders is a great business. It's growing at a good clip. But we already have significant market share, especially in air. So once you're 30% of the world market, it gets a little harder to grow fast. And 200% growth will have got the whole world market. So we're starting to slow down a little there just because we're so big already. Yep. Marketplace, like I said, we're less than 1% of the world market. So that's growing very rapidly.
Have you passed $1 billion in GMV through your platform yet?
You're twisting my arm here. Not going to go into any more specifics, actually.
Well, I'm curious. When you gave me earlier numbers of containers and numbers of things. I'm curious, you can give me the total, what you think the total market is, right? So on the 30 million tons a year that go through the air and the 10K, and the 20 million containers that go through oceans, what's the total GMV on that as a market?
The total GMV of the world market?
Yeah, so let's just be specific. Number of containers for ocean is 20 million containers, right? Annually.
Oh, that was a rough number. I need to look that up. In air, I had the number at the top of my head.
What's air?
That was order of magnitude, tens of millions, yeah. Well, the total market is about, at the carrier level, both air and ocean are each at about 100 billion order of magnitude.
Okay.
And then when you add the freight forwarders, they resell it, then that gives you another 300 billion or so.
Yep. So just to be
the total.
I was going to say, sorry, let me make sure I understand that. So you think there's about 400 billion. In other words, if you processed 100% of air freight, right, shipping, you think that's a $400 billion GMV business?
No, air on its own is about order of magnitude 100 billion. To be more accurate, it's probably 70 to 80 billion order of magnitude. Ocean is a little bigger, maybe 120 billion. These numbers are not 100% accurate because there are different estimates, but they're definitely order of magnitude.
Yeah. Well, Zvi, you're
direct carrier.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Direct carrier is 80.
Direct carriers, air and ocean together would be about 200 billion. And then the freight forwarders who resell that at about 300 billion.
Yep. Okay. Interesting.
Order of magnitude. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, and then again, is it as simple as you taking a % of GM3 through your platform, or is your marketplace model different than that?
It is. Yeah. We have slightly distinguished. We take a slightly higher percentage for Ocean for air, slightly lower percentage for air, for ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of nuances, but basically it's a percentage of the GMV. Yeah.
Yep. Now I'm not going to push here because I'm certain it differs based off volume and who your partner is. But just so I can get some kind of range, is it between 0 and 10%? Or
well, that I can tell you. Actually, we're quite open about the percentages.
Okay, what's that?
We're just a little more discreet about the total volumes. So we take. It basically comes to, from the sellers, we take 2% in ocean and 4% in air.
Okay.
And from the buyers, we take 3%, mainly to cover the financial fees, so the credit or the credit card.
3% on ocean and air? Okay, got it.
Because that's not really to do with air or ocean. That's not the cost of sale. That's really the financial cost. That costs the credit card. That covers credit card processing or credit if they want to pay later.
So on one cargo, what's it cost to ship one cargo container from Hong Kong to LA?
Order of magnitude, depending if it's door to door or not. So let's say $2,000 is an average.
Okay, so
$2,000 is an average order on our marketplace.
So if you set up that $2,000, what you're saying is you'll take, because it's ocean, you'll take about 2%, right? So that is $40 on the seller side, and then you'll take 3%, right? About $60 on the buy side. So you're making essentially $100 per cargo container shipped.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. Last few questions. I got deep into this and then missed some other macro stuff. Last time you were on, you said you raised about $50 million. Still at 50, or have you raised more?
No, we've raised more. We've raised 95 million in total now.
Jesus, that's a lot of dilution. Why'd you have to raise so much?
Well, we're going after a big market here. So, we have people around the world. We have customers around the world. It's a big market. So I'm not worried about dilution so much. I want to make sure that we're capturing the industry.
Yep. Team size today, how many people?
We're creeping up on 300.
Okay. How many engineers?
About the best part of half of that, maybe 120, 130.
Okay. And any quota carrying sales reps? If so, how many?
We do have, yes. We have, both on the buy side and on the sell side, order of magnitude, 15.
15. Okay, so not a ton relative to what I imagine your scale is. Okay, good. So 15 folks, and then look,
there's a lot of digital marketing as well, right? They're backed up by the direct sales, and for the big forwarders, we need direct sales, but a lot of our marketing is digital.
Yep. And if I asked you how many customers do you serve today, how would you answer that?
Well, we serve 1,500 trade forwarders, like I mentioned earlier. The buyers on our marketplace is thousands. I don't remember even exactly the number, but it's quite a few thousand.
Yeah, but the reason I asked is so you consider the freight forwarders your customers.
Both, but yeah, technically the freight forwarders are our customers.
Yep. When you last came on, I'm going to guess this number went up. When you came on back in 2017, you said on average these freight forwarders, you had about 1,000 back then, I think you said, and they put about $12,000 in terms of what they paid you per year on average. When you add up kind of total volume they put through you, has that increased?
Well, it's probably decreased because we now have a free offering for freight forwarders. So some of them pay us nothing.
Yeah. Just so you're paid
at the top end, yes, we have more guys who pay us, 6 digits. We have guys who pay us 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a year, and we have more of those. But then we also have more at the lower ends. So I'm not sure the average has gone up.
Interesting. So just to be clear, over the past 2 years, the trend has been you have gotten way more value from your top 5% of your customers, right, in terms of more volume through your platform. But you've also opened up top of funnel as well, even more with your free tier. So there's more people coming in and getting started.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, Zvi, let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Oh my goodness, I haven't actually read a book. I read sort of, bits and pieces. I haven't read a book for a long time. I still like that classic Innovator's Dilemma.
Yeah, you gave Crossing the Chasm last time.
I still like that as well.
Good.
I haven't forgotten it. Many years ago, but I haven't forgotten it. Yeah.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
No, not really.
Number 4, what's your favorite online tool for building your company?
What was number 3?
Oh, sorry. No, that was number 3. Favorite online tool. Sorry.
Okay. Favorite online tool for building the company.
Yep.
Well, we use, I'm not sure if this is your question. We use tools like Salesforce.com. We use Segment. And actually, maybe our favorite tool is Domo. We use Domo a lot for business intelligence.
Okay. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I sleep well, 7 hours.
Okay. And situation, married, single, kids?
Married, kids, and 2 grandkids now.
Ooh, exciting. How many kids?
Yeah, 4 kids.
4 kids, 2 grandkids.
And my big daughter had baby girls, yeah.
How exciting. Twins. That's very exciting. Yeah. All right. And how old are you?
I'm 50.
50. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
No, nothing. I think it's fun to learn as you go along. I wouldn't want to spoil any of the learning experiences for my 20-year-old self.
Guys, there you have it from Zvi, working with over 1,500 freight forwarders, creating an Expedia-like experience for both air and cargo containers on oceans. Believes the total market there on the air side is, call it 80 billion in terms of GMV. They've got 30%, right, of this market share, 1,500 of those freight forwarders using them, but they're the ones that do it a lot, right? There's 10,000 total, but those 1,500 that they've got do it a lot. On the ocean side, 20 million containers, or call it tens of millions of containers per year. They believe they have less than 1% of the market, so lots of room to grow. Over $90 million raised to continue to grow this. Again, they make money on the SaaS platform. 75% of their revenue comes from that. About 25% comes from their marketplace, but that is growing drastically as they take 4% or 2 to 4% on the seller side, 3% on the buyer side on both ocean and air. Zvi, thank you for taking us to the top.
Thanks, Nathan.
These CEOs rarely give these kinds of interviews. I hit them hard, I get the data, and I want to do it more. So if you want to get more of this stuff, make sure you subscribe up here. And then additionally, go check out one of my other CEO interviews right now.